Hello! Welcome back to Seaweed Brain, a Percy Jackson podcast, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about the Wrath of the Triple Goddess and more. We are kind of nearing the end. We're in the home stretch. We are strategizing for our final mission. We are exploring witchy alternate universes and life paths. Stick around.
Welcome back to Seaweed Brain. My name is Erica, joined as always by my co-host Carter. What's up, Carter?
Hi.
And today I am joined live and in person by Sophia. What's up, Sophia?
Hey.
Sophia, care to fill the people in on your life, on your illustrious, no longer just on Substack, thoughts
That's
found
true.
elsewhere on the internet.
Screen spec, yes. Recently, my article on Annabeth Chase and how she expands her definitions of girlhood, especially for Black girls, is on Screen Spec. It was actually amazing seeing the positive responses, but it was kind of weird because like a couple weeks later, she gets the Emmy nomination. And it was cool because a lot of people were talking a lot about like, oh, we don't have enough Black girls in media, especially soft Black girls. And then Leah gets the Emmy nomination. I felt like, did I have a hand in this? Did my article tip the fate to scale?
Did it reach the Emmy voters? Definitely. For your consideration, Leah Savay Jeffries.
That's the real reason to be in LA, is to be considered, to consider and to be considered. And exactly. you were joining in that.
And isn't that the same thing as loving?
It is.
That was a vague lady.
Oh my God. Speaking of this is not speaking of anything. I'm just going to totally derail this conversation to say that we are recording on the day of the BFI conversation between Saoirse Ronan and Timothée Chalamet, where they're doing a career retrospective interview set. This should be a national holiday. This one, you got to put this one in the books.
Well, I was wondering where that clip came from.
It's from the BFI. They did a whole day-long event together. They did a red carpet together, and then they sat together. They had a conversation about both of their respective movies for the year, and also rewatched together clips from Lady Bird and from Little Women, and talked about them and each other's performances and about how their careers have been shaped by Greta. And it's just fabulous. Even though people were failing to appropriately consider Blitz and The Outrun, Timothy considered them in front of a small audience. And, we got to talk about the proposal scene on the Hill in Arnold Arboretum in South Boston.
And I'll watch.
I figured you might love me, Joe. Because I just saw that clip of somebody awkwardly zooming in on Timmy and Saoirse watching that scene.
Yeah,
and I was like,
there
what
are
is this
these
from?
clips just the backs of their heads in couches, looking up at a screen, playing these different clips. And that's what it's from.
The real content isn't out yet. Heard.
I don't know if it will be out. I don't think that this is an event that was maybe pro-shot for YouTube. I can't tell yet. But it happened today as at least a live thing that people were certainly allowed to film on their phones a lot.
People still do events that aren't pro-shot for YouTube. We enjoy things in real life in real time.
I think it's only for the elite. I do think that's an elite thing,
I think two-tiered enjoyment is the word. If they didn't pro-shoot it, I will be really upset. But I will piece together everything off of various Twitter clips and cobble together a full experience of this event.
I also just want to say that right before we started recording this, we were checking our Airbuds yearly recap. We are not sponsored by this app. We would love to be sponsored by this app. We're not sponsored, though.
Should we be Airbuds TikTok ambassadors? They keep asking.
Oh, yeah, they do keep asking. We could be. We could do it on Instagram.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't think they care about that.
I don't use TikTok anymore. I need to be old. I had to have one corner of the internet where I was just too old for it. I just wanted to share with everybody that Carter figured out how to check the yearly recap first on Airbuds, and Carter's most compatible friend was our friend Sammy, friend of the podcast. Sammy, she actually designed our cover art. Fun fact, Sammy. And then I checked, and my most compatible friend was Carter. Is that sad? I don't know. And then Sophia checked.
And my compatible person was Erica.
Yeah, we're kind of having our little challengers moment right now.
Fun chain.
Or Wicked, dare we say.
Oh.
Woo!
Which one? There's a lot.
Most prolific love triangle of the year.
There are multiple a couple love triangles. Talking about Glinda, Bach, Nessa.
I'm sorry, Glinda, Bach, Nessa?
Well,
I don't think so.
That was One Direction, but okay, I feel there's a love dodecahedron going on in that whole friend group.
I don't even think it's. I think it's a triangle with a tail. There's a triangle, and then one of the points has a tail.
Yeah. And it's Bach.
It goes Nessa, Bach, and then triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Percy Jackson, book, there's this book called The Wrath of the Triple Goddess. We have 3 chapters to talk about today. two of them have some like big conversations in them. Percy Annabeth and then Percy Mom. Those are gonna be fun. Where did we last leave off, Carter?
This is an excellent question. Wow. It's been a second since we've recorded, but we last left off after we have successfully brought Gale back to the mansion. You know, we've tentacle experienced her trauma and her memories.
Octopus magic.
Yes, octopus magic. Oh, I went to Tanioka this morning. Are there any Hawaii listeners? I went to Tanioka this morning and got some of that good taco poke. Real ones will know, and that unfortunately does not include Erica. I'm going to be eating some good octopus tonight.
Yeah, sorry. I'm inferior. I can't do the tentacles, but I'm really proud of Carter. Really happy for them.
That's where we last left off with the tentacles, with Gale's sort of wrap up, and we're ready to turn to the third and final challenge, which is rebuilding the mansion with our newly united full team that includes Gale and Hecuba.
Woo!
Yay! And we're probably going to use Chekhov's Hecate's magical crossed flaming torches.
Yes.
All right. It's chapter 28. I make a bad plan. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention this legally. I feel like we've been losing a little bit of steam on some of these chapter titles recently. And, you know, nobody's perfect. Nobody has infinite energy. I feel like there's a little sparkle missing. That's okay.
But I feel like they can't all be diamonds. They can't all be, you know, because you have to appreciate something.
They can't all be perfect.
These are low-bearing titles here. They're just holding up the structure of the book.
Yeah. At this point, they're just telling us what's happening. I mean, we got the Panic at the Disco reference that I already cannot remember what it was. You know, we got
Hellhounds at the Disco.
Yes.
Hellhounds at the Disco. That was a strong, nice high.
I love that the central idea, like the big like motivational statement of this chapter is anything is possible on Halloween. I love this is like the Hallmark Halloween movie book where they're just like, guys,
Halloween, yes.
The true meaning of ghost memory was
Halloween
the friendship we
we
made along the way. Yeah, I love that.
You think Percy is gonna give up life in the big city to go home and save the family pumpkin patch that is going
the family haunted house? The family said rebuild the family haunted house. Yeah. It makes money only once a year.
Is he gonna meet like a large hairless man who will show him the real meaning of Halloween? Maybe.
Large hairless man? Are they always hairless?
No facial hair, no body hair, you know?
Well, no. Some of them have like a lumberjack stubble.
Sometimes they have facial hair, I guess, but they're like body hairless, right?
Yes.
Like Hallmark makes them like wax the chest. It's like the Marvel thing also.
Oh my God, I want to be in a Hallmark movie so bad.
Vancouver.
That would be fun, but I want it to be a Halloween one. So yeah, I can say anything is possible on Halloween. It's the most magical time of the year.
Do they invest in Halloween movies? I feel like, I always just know that they go hard for Christmas and Valentine's Day.
Hallmark does not. Netflix is trying to steal Hallmark's holiday movie thing.
They are.
Netflix. If you're listening, I know you're listening. Open market. Come on. Such a small pivot for you. You already know everybody in Vancouver who does, you know, like low to mid budget filmmaking. You know that they're not busy certain times of year. Let's get in there. Let's see some Halloween movies. Anything is possible on Halloween. Netflix.
You know what? St. Patrick's Day. Honestly, it's like Luck of the Irish, like Disney Channel.
There is no greater St. Patrick's Day film of all time than Luck of the Irish.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if that's toppable.
When they sing "This Land Is Your Land" at the end of the movie,
when his mom turns into a leprechaun.
So on page 234.
Yes, let's get on track.
Yeah, Annabeth is kind of like, I want to tell Grover that we trust him. You know, she's like making eyes at Percy and it's like, you need to be the one to tell him that we trust him, which is interesting. And Percy says, of course we trust you. We trust the animals because they have to leave the mansion to go to school the next day.
Yes.
So they're going to leave Grover there.
This is actually a startling dynamic for me. It did not occur to me because Percy Jackson is such a we're doing the juxtaposition of the real world into the fantasy world thing that it had not occurred to me until we're seeing this every day that like everything else has been during a break. We've never seen them actually going to school intermittently. Like maybe we go to school and then we leave forever because it's summer now or something. But like being like, okay, pause the quest. Time for homework, time for swim practice, time for pitching my new essay for the term project. Do we like it? I think I kind of like it.
I like it too. I think that just like you said, I was kind of like, wow. Because I feel like this is a trope that happens, I think, a lot of, not just in books, but I think in YA media recently. Like, I'm going to throw out Euphoria, because I think people are like, do they go to school? Where are their backpacks?
Yeah. The school part gets thrown under the bus. Yeah.
Oh, non-existent. Where are the like, teachers? Are they involved? Parents? None. Well, it's cool because you see that real strain of like he really is. Or I guess the team really is transitioning to life that's a little bit more merged in their demigod, where the real life is merging a little bit more. Because they're actually going to college now. They're thinking about the future, real lives outside of saving the world.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It makes me nostalgic for a lot of, I think, the children's media I remember where you're strategizing for how you're going to survive the next night happens. Like in class, we were half paying attention, but also like the teacher says something really interesting that is going to actually take you down a new strategy and path. I dig it.
Like Cardcaptor Sakura? What do you like referencing?
Everything. I think it's Cardcaptor Sakura. This happens like almost all the books I read as a kid. This was happening where like they would be in class learning, and there would be that like inception mind message that school is actually useful, and sitting there and listening to a teacher will immediately yield gains for you in your life.
Well, they have this fun Percy Annabeth catch-up session. Like, we haven't had the two of them. A lot has happened. Owlabeth happened. Like, the whole Grover Percy potions mess happened. Yeah, the grounding. They have to revisit Grover's grounding thing. And just in general have a moment to communicate. Annabeth is pissed off about the Grover grounding situation.
It feels like a parent, like, when a dad tells a mom, it's like, oh yeah, our kid did this thing. She's like, when are we going to tell me about this?
Yes. Once again, back to the nuclear family dynamic. And then on 236, Annabeth is telling Percy about the visions that she saw.
Yes.
Because you know how Percy saw Troy and like the memories of Hecuba and Hecuba's transformation.
Mourning.
Yeah, mourning. Annabeth says, do you know what I saw? This is 236. I saw the city itself, Troy. She tightened her grip on my fingers. Your dad built those walls. Did you know that? The whole city was constructed with magic. Maybe I'd heard that story before, but it still sounded strange to me. I couldn't imagine my dad as a bricklayer. I saw the city collapsing, Annabeth continued. Hecuba was dragged out, her family was killed, and the magic unraveled. It's like the city's reason for existing just stopped. I could feel every column cracking, every support beam collapsing. I wanted to save the city, all those homes, temples, palaces, but I couldn't. She gave me a despondent look. You saw the people, I saw the buildings. Why is that?
Truly, I was almost like left without words with this passage. I was like, dang. But I'm glad we got a little more about interiority in terms of like, because she does have interpersonal skills too, but her and Percy go about it in different ways. I think it's really interesting to see her verbalize this as a relationship between the two of them, because I think that's something that it's interesting to talk about, because I think we get to see a little bit more of it in the TV series, like visualize, which I think it's really cool. And they build on that a lot more, but
I really like this inclusion of the differences between Percy and Annabeth. And Percy goes on to say, I didn't answer right away. The obvious thing to say was, because you're an architect in training. But I knew that wasn't what she needed to hear. She'd been sitting with this vision for a while now, and it was clearly bothering her. So the thing that he says in response to like make her feel better about this vision is, maybe you saw what you needed to see, a way to help Hecuba and us. You read people just fine, wise girl, better than me. But architecture, only one of us can do that. And I love this acknowledgement from Percy, is he's like trying to intuit what Annabeth is upset about. It's that she feels like she isn't connecting. Like she isn't, she's not connecting and empathizing on the same level. And that she clearly feels bad about that. Like there's something wrong about that.
It's a lot. I feel like that's like insecurity she has.
Yeah, she feels like she's a bad person.
Well, because she didn't have, again, like we said, like, different upbringing from Percy, did not really get those social, emotional, intelligent training or skills. Initially. Well, it's always there. And I always feel like maybe that's just a part of her, I guess, that she's always insecure about.
Am I wrong in saying that earlier in this book, Percy was like, Annabeth is a natural people person?
Yes. But but sometimes people can't tell from their own perspective.
And that's the thing is, I feel like, I don't think she is a natural people person, but I feel like he's right that she has the skills and that she can understand what's going on. But that's different from...
Also might not be as natural.
That's different from, looking at the world a certain way. Being able to understand people's motivations is really different from, say, like, prioritizing that. It makes sense that she'd be really self-conscious about this.
I think it's less intuitive for her.
Yeah, and then it's less intuitive.
I think it's less intuitive. I think she has something she has to actively work on. And I think, again, talk about neurodivergency. Sometimes for some people, that is an issue of really having to, like, concertedly think about. It doesn't make you any less of a person, but it's just a different tool.
I feel like we've seen so much from Percy's perspective, especially in the earlier books, about him feeling broken and like his brain doesn't work properly because of the ADHD and all of that. But this is an interesting perspective from Annabeth to be like, I feel personally the brand in which my brain is broken makes me feel like I'm not connecting with people in the same way that you connect with people. Obviously, she's close enough with Percy to be able to say that to him,
which I love. Honestly, that's another level of like intimacy unlocked.
Yeah. But it reminded me also that this book takes place after the Heroes of Olympus, which means this is after she had her whole journey with Piper, where Piper was trying to teach her how to trust her instincts and like allow herself to be led emotionally for the first time. And that was very much not the end of that journey for Annabeth. That wasn't like her all of a sudden being super in tune with that side of herself. If anything, she probably that probably opened up for her.
Another, like, I mean, it's just like another can of worms. Exactly. Yeah. It's just like, oh, like kind of therapy. You go to one session, you think you're fine, but you open up a box you didn't even know was there, and now you got a whole box to unpack.
Yeah, this feels like a box that all of a sudden she's like, I never would have previously questioned why I saw the buildings, but now I'm like, you saw the person and I saw the buildings. Shouldn't I be seeing the people too?
Like, I think it's her seeing the buildings is interesting because I was thinking about this a lot. I think it's like, well, it's not just seeing the building, she's seeing the impact or like the important significance of a monument or structures and what they mean to people, which is interesting. I think she's focusing in the wrong direction. She's seeing how people place meaning on these things. And she understands that, why certain things mean, what monuments, the power and the importance of monuments and images and symbols to the people.
In a way, it's, I think, a similar version of, like, this is a microcosm of the decision that everybody makes when thinking about professions or about how you spend your life. Like, you could try to be a utility maximizer and say, like, I'm going to be whatever, like an emergency department nurse 16 hours a day, every day. Like, a microcosm of choosing to be an architect is believing that people's relationships to buildings are important enough to spend your life thinking about them. Whereas you could be directly working with people. Those are both valid choices. Like, I think because she has a spotlight on this idea that she is insecure about how naturally and deeply she is empathizing with other people. This is something that she's going to be really concerned about. But I don't feel like the message that we're supposed to be taking away is that she doesn't actually care about people. She just hasn't, I think, found a way to get to that place as far as self-conception and self-talk about why what she's doing is also valid and why this way of seeing the world is important. And that's kind of what Percy's answer is pretty perfect, I feel like, at both like getting to what she's actually concerned about, but also being materially, I think, correct that like you don't want a team full of people who are seeing the world the same way. That's never useful.
Yeah, I think that's exactly correct. I think that, well, again, also sometimes it's about like accepting our own perspectives and thinking, okay, like this, I'm not gonna see the world exactly like Percy, but you said, like, affirming that her perspective is valid, and sometimes it's just accepting who you are and understanding that people who are going to architecture, they build structure. They don't just like build buildings; they build homes. They build again monuments that last forever. You know, like the Jesus statue in Brazil, and like that's beautiful, or like the Statue of Liberty. Those things have meaning and importance and weight. And other people build houses. Some people build shelters. And that's caring for someone else. That's caring for people too. I think she just understands. Because it just looks different. I think that she understands just because it looks different doesn't mean it's not as valid.
Yeah, it's the self-talk aspect that she needs to find a way to understand that her version of caring and her version of seeing the world is not lesser than or doesn't make her a less empathetic person.
And it's not that she doesn't care that the people in Troy were, getting killed either.
Exactly.
No.
It's just the way that her brain works and what her brain goes to first to interpret a situation.
Exactly.
And I thought directly, did you guys also have this thought immediately in this scene where they're comparing visions to Siren Bay and to the vision that Annabeth sees, that Percy sees through her, that like that vision was of the like beautifully reconstructed Mount Olympus, but also of her family. And I thought to the fact that Percy was describing that to us, and that Percy describes there's like this beautifully constructed Olympus and also her family. And if in that moment, all that Annabeth saw were the buildings, like if Annabeth didn't even register her like the united family, that wasn't the thing that she saw, but Percy noticed it. And so in a way that
she
like in
registered
that moment,
it. But I mean,
but do you know what I mean? That like,
says,
the Percy, the central focal is like she built something. This was like they were there to like witness what she had built. But like yes.
But what Percy saw was dang, she really wants a family back.
Luke, he saw Luke.
Yeah.
He's like, oh dang, Luke's there.
Yeah. I just thought that this was something that, I don't know, we won't know whether or not that was the neural pathway that formed when Rick wrote this scene. But to me, it was so Siren
I feel like it
Bay
has to, because there's
reminiscent.
so many like
Yeah.
there's so many Sea of Monsters references here. I think that it's nice to have that kind of like loop to have to circle back to that moment.
Mhm.
Again, I would love to see more of like Annabeth's perspective from wrestling with her own interiority of her feelings, her intellect, and how she synthesizes them into herself. It's so, I mean, especially when compared to Percy, which is Percy's known for being his very empathetic, like talking to the villains like, you're not a bad guy, you're just a misunderstood.
Mhm.
Mhm.
There's also, did you want to mention about the lore of the magic building, Carter?
Well, yeah, it's kind of laid out for us there that it's going to be relevant to us, obviously, because the manse is a magically constructed building that when we're describing Troy, we get from Annabeth this idea that there is a link between structure or design and longevity. It's about purpose, and that perhaps what we're starting to lean into and lead into here is that part of the man's disrepair has to do with the lack of purpose.
So Monster House logic.
I think of Monster
Yeah.
House so much in the last part of this book. I love, speaking of
It's
classic
Monster House.
Halloween films, my favorite Halloween film.
Monster House.
So
That was
good.
actually like emotionally like left an imprint on my soul.
Yeah, and visually, the animation was terrifying.
But when we're thinking about the manse losing its purpose, we're immediately thinking about the magic school. And when we think of the magic school and getting more information about that, we have to go and consult Sally. We have to talk to SEJ.
And Erica is smarter than a fifth grader.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I saw that coming. Sally Estelle Jackson. Let's take an ad break, and then we'll go talk to Sally in chapter 29. Chapter 29, I Get All the Candy. Do you have words you want to say about that chapter title, Carter?
It's okay. We can keep going.
Okay, there's a really cute line that opens up this chapter about how Sally like greeted him with enthusiasm, and he was like, well, maybe it's just because she's surprised every time she sees me that I'm still alive.
Honestly, it's so valid.
I love the long leash that she gives her son.
At this point, it has to be like an inside joke. I was like, oh, you're alive today, I guess.
Yeah, I just love the idea that Sally is so zen that she's like, I don't know where my son's at. I don't know if he's
It's
alive.
10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are?
There's nothing I can do about it, though. I have to write my book. That level of independence from your son, so it's
Glorious.
very
People need to take notes.
glorious. Yes,
I think it's just nice talking about independence, especially since they were very, I won't say codependent, but very close. I think the first.
it was them against the world. For
Yeah.
the first. Part
He
of his
was her
life.
world. He was literally her world for
Yeah.
those first few books. So it's really, it is nice to see that she has her own life now.
Yeah. And we're at not the chipped cup, but the cracked teapot, which might as well be the chipped cup. Percy is anti-scone. This is a new thing we're learning about him.
Very on brand and correct.
So Percy explains everything that's going on.
Hey, she reached across the table and took my hand. It reminded me of when I was a little kid. Sometimes I'd felt like the world was spinning too fast. I couldn't process all the sounds and lights. My mom would tell me to focus on holding her hand. She wouldn't let go until I felt steadier. You were going to be fine, she said now. It didn't matter that her own hand was trembling. I knew she was as scared as I was. But that was okay as long as we were scared together. Yeah, of course. Just support Annabeth. If she's holding the torches, she's going to need to tonight. Is that a secret mom life hack? I asked. How do you keep from getting too freaked out? What do you mean? Like, focus on the people you love. They need you. You can't afford to get overwhelmed. You keep it together. She laughed. Maybe so. All I know is that you and Annabeth and Grover are going to get through this.
I liked this section for a number of reasons. It made me think about the concept of the mortal tether and what keeps you grounded to this life, being the person you care most about and the other people around you. But it also made me think about Percy's fatal flaw. Fatal flaws, Sea of Monsters, again, with book 2 resonances, that Percy was raised by his mother to always support those around him, you know? And that at the end of the day, he will always sacrifice everything for his group of people.
It's what makes him the hero that he is.
And I like knowing that it comes directly from her.
Yeah.
And the model that she set for him.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like when you're spinning out, just be there for your people. Do you think Percy is an Enneagram type 2?
I would have no idea.
Question for
There's
the
no way for
crowd.
me to know that.
Question for the culture. Whoever's listening to
am
this.
not well versed in that genre of personality.
Twos are helpers.
Superlatives.
Any of my Enneagram fans out there, let me know what you think. Do you think Percy is a type 2 wing 1? Or a 1 wing 2 for that matter? I'm a 1 wing 2. Maybe I'm projecting.
Someone once told me that zodiacs are basically a socially acceptable version of space racism, and I've never been able to unhear that or apply it to any other form of those things.
Space racism?
You think people are like prejudiced against whatever Geminis?
I mean, I'm prejudiced against male Pisces.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And that's fair.
You're right for that.
Yes. But then we transition from this little ritual moment into a conversation about Sally Estelle Jackson's run-in with Hecate back in the day.
Let me just say, I do think this is partly like an influence of like the series. Begin to see more of Sally's life pre-Percy and pre-Poseidon, especially as she relates to this bigger, godly, magical world, has been very, very, very fun to get into. And it really does make you want to know more about how she continued to grow up after this with her knowledge of these visions, of that there is clearly other forces and other beings at play.
I think that there are a lot of resonances with the TV show in this. The story that we get from Sally is that she, as a kid, living in Gramercy Park West, which, pause, is Sally for money.
Yeah, I thought it was like, yeah, she's rich.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but then all her her family wealth was lost when her parents went down in that plane crash.
I get, maybe.
Does it work like that?
There's some questions that I have about that. But then again, Upper East Side. So maybe, I don't know, maybe she did inherit another apartment from them. I don't know. Anyway, she was in Gramercy Park West. She stumbled across Hecate, and Hecate told her, basically, your eyes are fine. Hecate magically broke the glasses, and Sally just lived the rest of her life basically knowing when to lie about seeing supernatural things. But also being confident in the fact that they were real and that she was appreciating reality on a greater, not more incorrect level than everybody else.
Well, far be it for me to spin this out and make this about Perciveth, but reading this makes me think so much about Rachel Elizabeth Dare, and I just feel like the reason Percy was like drawn to her
because he was like Sally.
Yes, it's because he was like, this girl reminds me of my mom.
I think that was like me reading the series. I was like, oh, this is one of those like, this person reminds me of my parents.
Yeah.
And conflating that with like attraction.
Yes. Percy never had a crush in like a romantic way on Rachel Elizabeth Dare. It was just like,
this is a wake up call to all the Dare shippers still out there. Like,
wake up and go back to bed. Thank you. Good night. Sorry, continue.
Well, we have to revisit this once we do get the Rachel Elizabeth Dare casting. We will have to go back to this conversation to remind people because they will be obnoxious. So
when we get to season 4, it's going to be a bloodbath.
And we'll have to remind the people this. Go back to like this episode. She reminds me of his mom. That's all.
Yeah, that's all. You're right.
Yes. This also, of course, implies a Sally Jackson witch alternate universe. Not in this universe, because of course the witch school has been closed for more than 50 years already by this point when she comes across this as a child, which, I don't know. Actually, maybe.
Well, I feel like
what year
maybe
is Sally Jackson a child in? Who can say? There's no way of knowing.
The Ridenverse clock stops after the end of World War II. After that, it's nebulous.
I don't know. Because some of those early books are dated. There's that moment where they ask Bianca, like, okay, who's the current president? And she doesn't say the name of the president. The phrase that's in the book is like, she says the correct name of the current president.
I remember that.
But then
I was
immediately
like,
afterwards, it goes like, they ask, what was the previous president? She says FDR, and they say, that was 60 years ago. So we got a date anyway. We still know Times Square takes place in like 2006.
Well, or could it be like he just doesn't have like a proper, reference of time? He'd be like, oh, that was 100 years ago.
I think they say that was like 60 years ago.
Anyway,
so yesterday also appears in the first book. There are many anyway.
Yeah, Hilary Duff fan.
Alternate universe in which Sally is a witch. Who's writing it? I want to hear it. Send me your fanfics. Please send us your fanfics.
I would love to see either private mentorship or Sally.
Non-alternate universe where she becomes a witch when we're done with everything.
I think she revisits that.
She publishes and she like part-time school to get the witchiness back up and running.
Well, They do see, like, you do see Hecuba and Gale. They don't have to give up on, they make midlife changes, decide to, like, accept. And, like, Gale says, I'm going to continue to practice my potions magic. Sally, or maybe would Estelle have abilities? I don't know.
Do you think you can inherit seeing through the mist? Like Estelle is also going to see through the mist?
Wonder.
It seems to not be perfectly hereditary in the sense that, like, obviously Sally's parents couldn't.
Wait.
But
No.
maybe.
I'm seeing the vision. for the
Estelle in the Magic
book
School.
series. Yeah.
Because then she'll have awareness. She'll already have an awareness of it.
But nobody wants to read a whole book series about a magic school.
But it's like a New York City prep school.
It's demigod magic school. Demigod magic school.
And it's just witches. That's true.
And it's all girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, implicitly.
Girls,
right?
gays, and
I don't know.
theys.
They tried to muddy the water a little bit on that one. We're skipping ahead a little. Eudora says some stuff about, like, this is for everybody. Everybody can go. Centaurs, everybody. Everybody can go. Does everybody include boys?
Yeah, because centaurs aren't boys.
I think it's really unclear.
I think we need to revisit what Zoe Nightshade said in The Titan's Curse. Grover is not a boy.
Yeah. But, like, I don't know. Like, Eudora keeps saying everybody, everybody, everybody. And I think we have to say not everybody. Like, I
No, this is
I don't
so
know
true.
exactly
I
how
think
we draw the line, but
a line has to be drawn.
like, I think we need to have an ethos of no boys. And, like, the specifics of that, I think, are nuanced and complex in much the same way that boyhood is nuanced and complex. But I think no boys as the principle.
I think no cishet.
Is
Can we
right.
at least say no cishet boys?
I think
agree.
the line, I think if we visit the sacred text, we think about Little Women. We think about the scene in 2019 Little Women in which they are voting on whether or not to include Timothée Chalamet into their drama club. And at first, the girls are like, no, he's a boy. And they say, no, he's Laurie. And then they let him in. So,
But was that the right call?
I think it was. Because I think that they made that decision on a case-by-case basis. Carter disagrees.
I guess. I mean, like, the review process, I think, was correct. I don't know if the decision was correct. But the review process, I think, was the right ethos. The right deliberation. Yeah. Anyway, Estelle, we'll see you in school. Maybe.
We'll see you.
Classes in session at some point.
There's an interesting thread in this chapter in particular about guilt and the guilt over our decisions. That Sally's like, I don't regret the decisions I made. And Percy harkens back to what Chiron said to him that, quote, not all of Hecate's ghosts are dead spirits. The worst ones are memories and regrets, like choices we never made.
This is so funny. Not funny, like, haha, funny, weird. Recently I purchased a book from Paulo Coelho. It's called Maktub, which means it is written, and basically it's like I guess he had a column where he wrote like a bunch of, like, I don't know, like Aesop's fable type writings, like very short. And I found it in the bookstore. I opened to write a page, and the page I opened to was about crossroads, and I think it kind of applies in this case.
Yes, read.
It's very short. It's very short. So the master says, crossroads are sacred places. That is where the pilgrim must make a decision. This is why the gods tend to sleep and eat at crossroads. Wherever paths cross, two powerful energies coalesce. The path that'll be chosen and the path that'll be abandoned. Both become a single path, but only for a very brief period of time. The pilgrim can rest and sleep a little, or even consult the gods who inhabit the crossroads. But no one can stay there forever. Once his choice has been made, the pilgrim must carry on and never think about the path not taken. If he does, the crossroads become a curse.
Mm-hmm. And that's beautiful because Percy is like, oh, dang, do you regret all of this stuff? Because I'm feeling all this regret. And Sally is like, no. I think what you're seeing is Hecate's regret. I think you need to go and help her out. I'm good. Like, I made my decisions. I'm happy. What she says, quote, my life is wonderful. You are wonderful. I think you're seeing Hecate's regrets. If anyone needs your help and understanding, it's her.
I think applied with this context of the text, it's interesting, like, that Hecate herself at a crossroads regrets her own decision. I mean, the goddess of crossroads and decisions has regrets, or she herself is wavering in her decisions. She's either not committed or she's hesitant about it, which is fascinating to see gods wrestling with their own, like, was a terrain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their own home turf. But we also just finished, that's such an awesome thing for Sally to say to help us wrap up this whole section of the book in which we just saw these, like, big crossroads moments for Gale and Hecuba, and both of them saying, no, I like the way I am. Like, even though that was a big moment, I'm happy with the decision that was made. Gale does not want to turn back into a human. She's happy being a polecat. Hecuba is going to stay a hellhound. Sally is going to stay a mother and who never learned to be a witch, and
She can train,
And a
I don't know,
writer.
she can train us still. Yeah, and a
And a
writer,
writer.
yes.
yeah, that like even though not sure, like I think again I keep wanting to tie everything back to
Elizabeth.
Percy, Annabeth, and Grover and senior year and
Mm-hmm.
But that's what the time is like, you're making a decision in your life that's like, instead of like, just ice cream or what kind of flavor ice cream you want, this is like direct impact on your life going forward. This is like the first real adult decision you make.
And that whatever decision you make, it's going to be okay. Like,
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You have to commit to that bit.
You have to commit to it.
Yeah.
And doing anything else otherwise turns it into a burden.
Yeah. Trust your instincts. Make the decision you want to make.
Take a breath, take a chance, and break away.
Yes.
Out of the darkness and into the light.
Okay.
Do we all know that Avril Lavigne wrote that song, actually?
What?
Avril Lavigne wrote it, and it was supposed to be on her debut album, and then she said, "This is not the right tone for this album.
It isn't.
Let it find
tone.
a new home." I think like she sounds really good singing it.
That was my favorite song as a child.
Yeah, KSSK Radio loved to play "Breakaway" by Kelly Clarkson.
KSSK.
That was my song, honestly. Like was it like Radio Disney?
It's a great
sometimes
song, even though Kelly hates it.
Is that why we never hear it a lot? I never hear her sing it.
She never performs it live anymore. She doesn't like to perform that one. She never performs a moment like this. And it's because all of those are from the era where she had no control over her music. And they were just like foisted upon her by Dr. Luke. Yeah.
It's crazy. That era of music, since you've been gone, Breakaway.
I would listen to a podcast of Carter just talking about Kelly Clarkson.
I would love that.
That could be a spinoff show.
Wow.
Well,
anyway, I think that this choice for Sally makes a lot of sense.
It does.
I would be really curious to see if Sally ever. I would also love to read about Sally potentially having doubts. Maybe as an alternate universe, because like this choice feels right to me. I also think that it would feel right to have Sally say, you know what? I'm going to present to my son who is about to make huge life decisions about going away to college. I'm going to present, a calm face, a united front, and say something that is maybe 80% true. And then afterwards, I'm going to sit at night with an application to the new magic school and think about it a little bit harder.
The new magic grad school application.
Yeah.
Adult school. It could be adult classes.
Because I feel like Sally, like it can both be true that you can be secure in your choices in life and be like, I got here, I am happy with my life, this all worked out. There's no use
natural
in
to have questions
thinking about hypothetical, but it's also never too late for now. Like just because you've made great life choices up until this point doesn't mean that you can't pivot and be a witch and a writer and the mother of a new child.
Also, I feel like Percy kind of like put her on the spot of this one because her saying she regrets her life was like, do you regret having me? And I feel like, Percy kind of like, there's, I was like,
but also, has Hecate ever said that witches can't have kids? I don't think she did. Right?
No, she didn't, because she is. Well, look, no, she didn't. But I think what Percy's his mind, because he says in the chapters, like if she chose a different path, he might not even be there.
Yeah. Wow. Much to consider there.
Eudora should, whisper in Hecate's ear about night classes.
Yes, I think that's right. And that's where we're going next. That after we wrap up this conversation, because this is still a school day for Percy. This was just a pit stop on the way to class.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was like, how early was this? Because
that's what I'm saying. Like my first thought reading this was like, how early does Sally start her daily writing routine? That's kind of like Percy, like crack of dawn, morning shower, and she's already there before he even goes to school. Good for her. She's getting those revisions done.
Because she's, rich and potential rich. She's got that mindset.
Yeah, she knows about the craft.
Yeah, she knows about the craft.
Yeah.
Percy goes to school. He commits to writing his term paper about Gale as a forgotten figure in history, which is very exciting. I do feel like Percy and Gale, like low-key, no shade to Hecuba, Percy seems to be really vibing with Gale. That story seems to
he likes a stinky girl. More. Yeah, that's his girl.
He likes the fart jokes. So
they're vibing. Yeah. Like they're the same brand of immature.
They are on the same wavelength in many ways. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
So he's gonna write his term paper about Gale, and then he goes off to see Eudora in the counselor's office, and we get a lot of backstory here. Eudora has a relationship with Hecate. I did not predict this. I was just going to be like, I was assuming that the wrap up for this was going to be, Eudora thinks Hecate's really scary because she got cursed when she was a kid,
so
or she saw one of her sisters turn into a witch, or something. But no,
I'm sorry.
No.
Let me be the first person to say out loud, shipping Eudora and Hecate as girlfriends who run the magic school together.
I see it in my mind's
that's
eye.
why she still has, it's like, that's, embarrassing, like
It's a power defense relationship, though. I don't know. It's giving.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Toxic Fury a
isn't
little
it, like,
bit.
administrator versus like principal? I feel like.
Yeah, no, that's not so good. Administrator, principal, it's goddess, Nereid.
But it would be, but they would have to be co-principals in the future when they co-principal.
Oh, okay. You're envisioning like a madman, like, oh, she's gonna step up, she's gonna take over, she's the real talent. But I don't know if I see the vision. I would read it, but I wouldn't root for them to be together.
I see her more as like, like board of like BOE, like superintendent type.
I am trying to be supportive and like let me emphasize that I would read it, even if I thought it was a little toxic, and even if I wasn't rooting for them to be together in the end, I would still read it. And I see the vision. I just don't know if the vision is aspirational, I guess.
You wouldn't be supportive, but you wouldn't report it to HR either.
I didn't think it through when I said it out loud.
Read the book about it, Like I would read the book. I would especially read like the webtoon about this.
I only advocate for appropriate power dynamics in my ships.
But I think you're right to call out that there's some tension. There's like that unanswered question of, okay, so like Eudora ran was the counselor and admissions officer before, but why? Like, why did that relationship initiate in the first place? Eudora was
That's what I was wondering. She's like, Hecate always gets so gloomy. I'm like, so
they know each other. They really do.
Intimately.
Yeah. Intimately.
This is all the backstory.
Well, I think they're already exes at this point, but they're like exes who are like friendly.
Yes, who like met in in the old times, starting the magic school. When Hecate, I guess, stumbled upon this sea nymph and was like, "Oh, you seem really interesting. Let's go on some dates, and let me tell you about my heart's ambition."
I don't think it has to be imbalanced.
I'm not saying unbalanced. Harder saying unbalanced.
As they move forward with the school 2.0, they can also move forward with their relationship 2.0.
We connect. They can
be on an equal playing field. They're both immortal.
They are both immortal. Okay.
How does the immortal age gap work?
I also love Halloween girlfriend meets like mermaid girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's cute.
No, I mean, like, that's like visually you can see it. You would read the webcomic of this because the aesthetic is there.
Send me the webcomic, please. Somebody.
Okay. Well, okay. So I think we've summarized most of the details. Eudora was there at the initial version of the school. She literally was there. She was running admissions. She was an administrator.
By Harry Potter
she was there when throwing additional Harry Potter shade. What did she say? Let's read the line. Let's be very specific here. What was I thinking? A magic school? Can you imagine such a thing? She ate that. Okay, this is the part that I had some follow-up questions about. One of the things that she talks about here is that the reason why the magic school fell apart is World War I. That the students started fighting each other, and it tore the school apart, and Hecate basically gave up on the project in anger. Does this make sense to people? I found this kind of confusing because I don't think that there was that much internal, like, American conflict about World War I as much as there was about some other things that happened at different points in history. There was some.
Also, I think that isn't World War I the minute that the powers began to shift away from Europe to America, because I feel like America was like on the come up, but it wasn't the flame of Western civilization at that moment.
Early, like, at the year 1900, it was still Britain that was, like, running everything.
Yeah, so maybe if, like, the gods are more European focused at that moment in time, and they're just based in New York, but if the gods are...
it was an international student body of Hecate's magic school?
I see. But they're very clear that it already was located in Gramercy Park. But I guess we're just assuming that, like, people were being, like, shipped in from Germany and Austria. And
it was an international school that was in New York, but it was Okay.
I can get with that.
And then that one makes more sense because that truly would be like a little testy.
Because Eudora wants to bring people in from all over. She says there's so many talented young people in the world, and they don't all fit in the demigod camps.
Wait. But sorry, side note. But there's also reference to the magicians in Egypt, the Egyptian magicians as well.
Do you think that this was a reference to the caves?
Maybe, because you're talking global, and also, like, if they don't fit into demigod camp, wouldn't that also affect, reference, like...
They don't all fit into the different...
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the other magicians. The Magicians TV show on Sci-Fi about going to graduate school for magic in New York.
But yeah, I see the setup here for any number of spin-off novels about all the different places where talented young people in the world can go that aren't just Camp Half-Blood and
different
Camp
kinds of
Jupiter.
magic too. Different
Yeah.
kinds of. Oh, it's so fascinating.
Yeah, we know about the Amazons, the hunters. We know about the
Yeah.
camps. We now know about this potential up-and-coming magic school. We know about Valhalla. We know about the Brooklyn House.
Yes.
There's plenty of possibilities.
Yeah.
There is an important thing that happens when Eudora is doing her doom squirting and scrolling on her magical misty holograms. Percy sees a vision of Hecate in the Philippines use like the symbol of her crossed torches to banish spirits. And he's like, interesting.
I don't know why, but like when I was reading it in my mind's eye, I thought she was like doing it to music. So she was just like vibing, having a good time, like
Yeah, dancing.
voguing,
probably.
like voguing with her
Yeah.
cross torches.
Yeah,
I feel like she would. I feel like she'd enjoy that, just summoning and then like banishing.
definitely. Yeah, it's part of her party tricks that she does around the world. And Percy says trick or treat, and Eudora gives him the entire jar of Jolly Ranchers because this is about to be a tough one. And then we go to chapter 30. We go up for battle.
Yes. This whole chapter is basically just a strategy session. Because it's already Halloween and we're going to use the torches. My favorite quote from this, I'm going to read right now. Percy says, "Not the warm greeting I'd been hoping for, but Annabeth got like that whenever she was in mastermind mode. She started juggling 1,000 factors in her head, preparing for every possible situations. Sometimes that made her see me as another asset for the plan rather than her boyfriend. Once in a while, that was okay with me, as long as I was an asset and not a liability." This really warmed my heart.
Yes, I enjoyed that very much as well. I love this.
I know of this phenomenon, where stuff is getting real and you have to transition your relationship for like a hot 30 minutes in order to get something done.
Yeah. It's
I
also
really see
all the
that for
different
her.
beautiful ways in which they work together. Like, they're not just Percibeth because they kiss on the face. They're Percibeth because of moments like this where they
Team, the
can manage
co-workers.
each other.
Yeah.
Co-working. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Partnership, teamwork.
I think it's another way of like again affirming what she was insecure about earlier about her being like unempathetic. Her ability then to like reprioritize relationships in an efficient manner is a strength of hers, even if it's maybe not comes off in the same, I don't know, soft and cuddly way as other people are.
Okay, but we're strategizing. We know we're going to use the torches. Chekhov's, Hecuba's cross torches. We are going to be summoning the dead. And Annabeth is backfilling a few more details for us about how specifically we're going to be summoning Peter Stuyvesant, original Dutch colonizer, landstealer, builder of southern Manhattan. How do we feel about this? I don't want to read the whole passage, but there is this line here about how if anyone can oversee a supernatural house repair in just one night, it's him. I feel like this is a little giving, like, he's nasty, he's rude, but you can't deny that he's good at what he does.
It definitely is.
He's a monster to work with, but he's just the best.
Okay, a question is like, what methods does he use to get this done quickly? Is like the next follow-up question I have.
Dutch colonizer. We know what they were up to.
Also, oversee.
Yeah, oversee. And as she says, he's literally not an architect. What skills is he bringing to the table? His skill at yelling at people, his skill at living in a house that looked vaguely like this.
Exploiting labor.
Skill in exploitation? I don't believe there is skill in exploitation, personally. I think there is only exploitation and those who are willing to do it and those who are not willing to do it because they know that it's wrong. I don't know if I'm fully following this train of thought. For me,
the question in the outline is this still where we're at? And I think the answer is yes. That culturally is still where we are at.
It is.
That some people are too great to fail, too great to be held accountable for stealing South Manhattan.
Well, we don't know if we're going to hold him accountable yet. Like, we need to wait and see.
We'll see.
I guess that's true. He's gonna be working for us. This is probably not gonna be a pleasant experience for him. I just don't believe that he is the most qualified to do this. That's part of where I'm at.
I think I was reading something, or it's like, I guess it was like Marxist thought or theory that really you should be like asking the people who actually built the singular bricklayers, because they're the ones who actually had to build the things, figured out how to actually make it work based on the ideas. Also, now, put in context of Leah and a Black Annabeth, summoning a Dutch overseer wouldn't be on the top of my list for Halloween, personally.
That is not the true magic of Halloween.
I guess she's gonna order him around, but well,
We'll have to see how that plays once we get.
we'll
him.
have to see how that plays out. I don't know. That,
Yeah. The
Okay.
politics
We
of that
also
one
get
very iffy. So we'll see. We'll see.
Grover also says, "Oh my God, Sally is a witch. She would have crushed that." Then he looked at me hastily and added, "But I'm glad you were born, of course." Grover's really
I never thought
dare we
I
say
would
queening
identify
out a bit
most.
sometimes.
I never thought I would identify the most with Grover in this trio. Never
He's
in
so
my
real.
life. But this entire book, I've been like, yeah, he's
He
the one.
does.
He has some zingers. He has some real relatable one-liners.
In this dynamic, he's the relatable one.
I agree. I concur. I'm sorry. I know I was listening to your podcast the other day about the that you had more muscles.
That was funny.
It's such a funny line considering how Percy was built up to be like the epitome of a hero for the past like 6 or so books. It's like, oh, that's it. Killed me.
Yeah. But we harness up Gale and Hecuba, and we head out into the alleyways to go make it all the way to the
Teams all together, the gangs together.
yeah, to
together.
raise Stuyvesant from the dead.
Ooh, wouldn't be Halloween without Ouija board or summoning from the dead.
Yeah. And I know there's a question about like harnessing Gale and Hecuba. How do we feel about that?
I was kind of like, is this a step backwards? I thought we were like all about like, we trust you now. We know you're not gonna leave.
I think that I think like the way that it makes sense is because Gale and Hecuba like want that.
They want the chains.
I guess that, I mean, like, they can want it. I don't know. I don't think I'm not looking to think too hard about that one personally. At this
I
point.
think that's what I'm
For
thinking
me.
as well.
Yeah.
Like maybe let's just move on.
I mean, we put a little lampshade on it. We're saying, okay, there were the harnesses, but like we didn't force them to.
We noted it and we're moving on.
We noted it,
Yeah.
and we're moving on. Precisely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now it's all about focus, and we'll see how that goes.
2 people with ADHD focusing on raising the dead.
Yay! Any final thoughts, everyone?
I think we should explore possibility with Annabeth's a witch. I think that's what I got from this chapter is these chapters.
It's also not too late for Annabeth to double enroll in Hecate's witch school. I think that's strong.
Her and Hazel.
She has at least one semester left of time in New York City. Sounds like she's not being kept too busy by architecture school.
Yeah, but also even when she goes to like New Rome, she could do, I don't know, a semester or like internship at Hecate.
Zoom.
An internship, a summer internship.
Like an apprenticeship or something. Build up her skills. Magical architecture.
Margaret, magical architecture. There we go.
Speaking of architecture, I did look into the whole Poseidon as bricklayer for the walls of Troy. Very, 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 very interesting story in that case. Because apparently, like Poseidon, Apollo, and I think Athena
tried to
like
throw a
rose
coup.
up against. Yes.
Yeah. And this was the
And then-
punishment.
there was the humans and a year of labor. And the king was like, "Oh, Apollo, can he basically called him like a twink. Like you can't lay bricks. You're gonna do sheep." It's like Poseidon. So I guess he literally was a bricklayer. I just like he like raised when Percy described it, I thought he just like raised like I don't know the water, like terraformed it, but he literally was laying the bricks for a year, and he intentionally left one side unmagical so that the Greeks could destroy it 4 generations later because the king didn't pay them. He was trying to cheat them out of their money. So let this be a lesson to all king CEOs. Pay the people.
There we go. Sophia, would you like to tell people where they can find you on the internet?
Yes, Instagram. I guess now screens back that one article
Hey,
so far.
one down, many to come.
Many to come. We're claiming it. My Substack, Analysis Paralysis, and the comment section of anything relating to Annabeth, Leah Beth specifically, and Percy Jackson.
Thank you for joining us, Sophia.
Thank you for having me.
If y'all haven't read Sophia's most recent article yet, you must. It'll be linked in our show notes along with her Substack. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye, all.